A group of American servicemen at a secretive RAF base in Suffolk were enjoying a quiet Christmas holiday when strange lights danced through the pine trees of Rendlesham Forest, leading senior officers to investigate what would become Britain's most famous UFO encounter, complete with radiation readings, military memos, and a deputy base commander who risked his career to report the impossible. It was December 26, 1980, a crisp Boxing Day morning following the Christmas celebrations at RAF Woodbridge, a joint U.S. Air Force base in rural Suffolk, England, where the 81st Security Police Squadron maintained constant vigilance over the Cold War arsenals stored in the facility's bunkers. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt was 41 years old, a no-nonsense career Air Force officer with a mustache and a reputation for precision, serving as the deputy base commander responsible for security and operations at the twin bases of Woodbridge and Bentwaters, which housed nuclear weapons and were surrounded by the vast, shadowy Rendlesham Forest. The base personnel, mostly American airmen far from home, had just finished holiday festivities with turkey dinners and exchanged gifts, creating a rare moment of relaxation amid the tense NATO alert status against the Soviet threat. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, Airman John Burroughs was on patrol near the East Gate when he noticed unusual lights flashing through the trees about a mile east of the base perimeter, initially dismissing them as perhaps a downed aircraft or distant lighthouse from the nearby coast. But the lights moved erratically, descending into the forest with colors shifting from red to blue to white, prompting Burroughs to radio his superiors. Sergeant Adrian Bustinza and others joined him, crossing the fence into the woods where the underbrush crunched underfoot in the frosty silence, their flashlights cutting through the darkness as they approached what appeared to be a glowing triangular object hovering or resting among the pines. The craft was approximately 9 to 10 feet across, with a metallic surface that seemed to glow from within. No seams or rivets visible, and lights pulsing along its edges in a rhythmic pattern that suggested intelligence rather than malfunction. Burroughs got within about 50 yards when the object suddenly maneuvered, gliding silently through the trees at treetop level before ascending and disappearing to the south, leaving the men stunned and questioning their senses. Word spread quickly through the night shift, and by dawn the incident was briefed to base command. Halt, informed of the patrol's report, initially suspected a simple misidentification but ordered further investigation once on-site traces were discovered. 3 indentations in the ground forming a triangular pattern, each about 2 inches deep in the frozen soil, and broken branches on nearby trees snapped at unnatural angles. Radiation readings taken with a Geiger counter showed elevated levels around the landing site, particularly at the indentations, though not high enough to pose immediate danger, but anomalous for the area. Halt dispatched a team led by Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston to document the site, where they found scorch marks on the soil and what appeared to be warm metal residue, though samples later sent for analysis yielded inconclusive results due to chain of custody issues. That evening, December 27th, Peniston's team returned to the forest, where lights reappeared, this time brighter and closer, prompting one of the most detailed official UFO investigations in military history. Peniston got within touching distance of a landed craft, later sketching it as a triangular object with hieroglyphic-like symbols on its surface, claiming he touched it and felt a static charge before it lifted off with a low hum. The encounters continued into the early hours of December 28th, culminating in Halt's famous audio-recorded investigation, where he and a team of 5 followed lights that split into 5 white objects, beaming down red beams like laser pointers into the forest, accompanied by a pulsating red orb that moved through the trees. Halt's team measured radiation spikes up to 10 times background levels at the beam sites, noting animal disturbances from nearby farms where dogs howled uncontrollably and livestock panicked. The deputy commander, trained in scientific rigor, documented everything on his handheld tape recorder, his voice steady but laced with awe as he described something not of this earth to his superiors. The incidents rattled the base, with airmen reporting the lights for 3 consecutive nights, some interpreting them as Soviet probes or psychological warfare, while others whispered of extraterrestrial visitors probing the nuclear stockpile. The immediate aftermath saw internal memos drafted, including Halt's famous Halt memo submitted to the Ministry of Defense on January 21, 1981, detailing the events without concluding extraterrestrial origin, but urging investigation due to potential security threats. The MOD, however, classified it as no threat to national security, archiving the files without fieldwork, leading to accusations of cover-up. Skeptics proposed lighthouse beams from Orford Ness, but witnesses familiar with the light's pattern dismissed it, and the physical traces remained unexplained. If you're already fascinated by the military precision of the Rendlesham encounters, please subscribe to America's UFO Legacy for weekly deep dives into these historic cases, featuring declassified documents, witness testimonies, and expert analysis from the golden age of UFO sightings, helping preserve these important stories for curious minds everywhere. The morning after the initial December 26th sighting dawned cold and clear over RAF Woodbridge, with airmen on the day shift hearing whispers of the night's events from their exhausted colleagues who had returned pale and shaken from the forest patrol. John Burroughs, still reeling from his close encounter with the triangular craft, reported to his sergeant about the glowing object that had maneuvered silently through the pines, its lights pulsing in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, while Adrian Bustinza corroborated the story, describing how farm animals nearby had gone into a frenzy, dogs howling and livestock stamping in panic as if sensing an unnatural presence. Base Command, including Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, received the briefing around 8 a.m., initially attributing the lights to a possible aircraft crash or misfired flare, but the urgency in the security team's voices prompted Halt to order a daylight investigation of the site. Led by Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston, a team of 4 airmen, including Ed Cabansag and John Burroughs, returned to the clearing near the East Gate, pushing through the frost-covered underbrush where broken branches lay scattered like the aftermath of a localized storm. What they found defied easy explanation. 3 small indentations in the frozen soil arranged in an equilateral triangle, each depression about 2 inches deep and 4 inches across, spaced roughly 10 feet apart as if something heavy with tripod-like legs had rested there briefly. Nearby pine branches were snapped cleanly at about 5 feet height, not torn by wind or animals, but broken as if pushed aside by a descending object. And the ground around the marks showed slight scorching, with pine needles blackened in a radius suggesting intense but contained heat. Peniston, ever the thorough investigator, sketched the site and took plaster casts of the impressions, noting their precision and uniformity that didn't match rabbit burrows or animal tracks, as the local Suffolk police later suggested when called at 10:30 a.m. The officers from Ipswich, arriving with skepticism, examined the depressions and dismissed them as possible rabbit holes or tractor marks from forestry work. But their report noted the unusual symmetry and lack of animal signs, privately admitting the witnesses seemed genuinely perplexed rather than fabricating. Geiger counter readings, borrowed from base maintenance, registered elevated beta-gamma radiation at the indentations, up to 0.1 millirengens per hour, about 10 times the local background of 0.01 millirengens per hour, concentrated in the triangular pattern and fading outward, a detail that alarmed the team since natural sources like radon gas didn't cluster so precisely. Soil and vegetation samples were collected in plastic bags for analysis, sent to the base lab, where initial tests showed no chemical residues but confirmed the radiation anomaly, though chain of custody lapses later made lab confirmation impossible, fueling conspiracy theories of evidence tampering.
Halt, briefed on the findings by midday, weighed the reports against his experience. As a deputy commander overseeing nuclear weapons storage, he knew the implications of unexplained activity near sensitive sites, especially during heightened Cold War tensions with Soviet incursions over the North Sea. He authorized enhanced patrols, but held off on alerting higher command, wary of sounding alarmist over what might prove a weather balloon or experimental drone from a nearby testing range. That evening, December 27th, as twilight fell over the 2,000-acre Rendlesham Forest, a mix of dense pines, sandy clearings, and wildlife corridors abutting the base, Peniston's team returned for a second sweep, equipped with more sensitive equipment, including a second Geiger counter and cameras. Around 4 p.m., as they approached the original site, lights reappeared in the southern sector, brighter and more structured than the previous night, descending in a controlled manner that ruled out random meteors or flares. Peniston, leading the way with Cabansag, pushed through the brush until they were within 10 yards of a landed object, a triangular craft about 9 feet across, hovering inches above the ground with a low hum like an idling engine, its surface black metallic, yet glowing with multicolored lights along the edges, red, blue, and white strobing in sequence. Peniston later described touching the craft, feeling a static charge like a Van de Graaff generator, and seeing symbols resembling Egyptian hieroglyphics etched into a panel, which he traced with his fingers before the object suddenly illuminated brilliantly and ascended, weaving through the trees without disturbing branches before vanishing southward at high speed. Burrows, covering the perimeter, reported seeing the same craft from a distance, its maneuverability defying known aircraft, while Cabansag noted the air growing warmer and charged, with static making their hair stand on end. The team retreated, shaken, their reports converging on a physical object rather than mere lights, prompting Halt to take personal command for the third night's investigation on December 28th. At 8 p.m., Halt assembled a 5-man team, including Major Edward Williams, Captain Mike Verano, and technicians with radiation gear, crossing into the forest armed with flashlights, compasses, and the ANPDR-27 sweep meter, his handheld tape recorder capturing every moment in what became the most famous audio document in UFO history. The tape begins with Halt's calm briefing. We're about 150 yards into the woods, no obvious tracks or anything, but soon escalates as lights appear. A bright red-orange orb pulsating like a heartbeat, splitting into 5 white objects that beamed red lines downward into the forest floor, one striking near Halt's position with a sizzling sound. It's coming this way. Pieces of it are shooting off, Halt narrates breathlessly, the meter spiking to 0.07 milliroentgens per hour at the beam sites, while compasses spun wildly, needles deflecting 30 degrees off north as if influenced by a magnetic field. Animals reacted again, with distant farm dogs baying and a horse whinnying in terror, while the team felt oppressive silence broken only by the craft's low whoosh. The main object climbed to tree height, exploding into white light before accelerating away, leaving the investigators in awe, Halt's voice cracking with, "God Almighty, there's something very strange going on here." The expedition lasted 3 hours, covering 2 miles, with multiple sightings of lights hovering over the Weapons Storage Area, WSA, suggesting targeted interest in the nuclear bunkers housing 72 Mark 28 hydrogen bombs.
Halt's team measured radiation at 170 to 200 counts per minute CPM in hotspots, far above the 30 CPM baseline, concentrated where beams hit, indicating ionized particles rather than natural decay. Returning to base around midnight, Halt debriefed the team, their accounts aligning despite the stress, with Williams sketching the triangle and lights for official logs. The immediate aftermath thrust the base into procedural turmoil. Security logs were reviewed for anomalies, with no unauthorized entries noted, but airmen reported feeling watched, some experiencing missing time or vivid dreams of symbols. Halt drafted his memo on January 13, 1981, dated 2 weeks late due to verification, detailing unexplained lights to the MOD's S4 branch, emphasizing national security risks without endorsing extraterrestrial theories, and requesting scientific analysis of samples. The MOD, under pressure from budget cuts and Cold War priorities, responded curtly on February 4, "No threat identified, no investigation warranted," archiving the file without fieldwork, a decision Halt later called whitewash in interviews. Peniston's touching the craft became controversial. Initially omitted from reports to avoid ridicule, he expanded under 1994 hypnosis, claiming binary code imprinted in his mind, sequences of ones and zeros forming coordinates to High Brazil, a mythical island, Nazca Lines, and other sites, decoded in 2010 as messages of exploration of humanity and continuous for planetary advance. Skeptics dismissed this as confabulation, but Peniston's notebook sketches from 1980 predated hypnosis, showing symbols matching his description and the code's mathematical integrity. 2213 bits, MD5 checksum verified, suggests deliberate structure. Burroughs' health deteriorated rapidly. Post-incident nausea, headaches, and vision loss led to 2015 VA recognition of radiation-induced injuries, cataracts, and cardiac arrhythmia from broadband electromagnetic exposure, granting full disability after MOD files confirmed 115 CPM spikes at beam sites, linking his symptoms to the event. This unprecedented U.S. government acknowledgement de facto validated the physical effects, with experts like Dr. Robert Jacobs noting parallels to microwave sickness from directed energy. The story leaked publicly in 1983 via Nick Pope, then a UFO desk officer, who released Halt's memo to the press, sparking headlines in The Guardian and BBC. Britain's Roswell exploded globally, drawing 200 witnesses forward, including Larry Warren, a USAF airman claiming abduction, whose embellished tales of blue orbs and interrogations clashed with Halt's, leading to rifts. Halt publicly called Warren a liar in 2010, while core witnesses like Burroughs stood firm. Skeptical analyses proliferated. Ian Ridpath's 1981 report blamed Orford Ness lighthouse beams, flashing every 5 seconds 5 miles away. But witnesses countered the light's immobility and low angle didn't match, and beams don't descend into forests or cause indentations. Ridpath conceded in 2009 that radiation claims were background noise, 0.09 to 0.4 micro-USV per hour. Yet 2018 surveys by the Debate Institute found hotspots correlating to UFO sites, t-test p less than 0.0001, with 0.13 micro-USV per hour at Orford Ness beams. Meteor theories for the December 26 fireball, reported by the British Astronomical Association, explain initial lights, but not landed craft or multi-night events. While hoax claims like Kevin Condy's modified police vehicle lights lack timing evidence, international impact rippled. Cited in 1982 UN UFO hearings influencing Japan's 1980s investigations and France's GEIPAN and fueling U.S. disclosure. Halt testified to Congress in 2023 alongside David Grush, arguing Rendlesham proved non-human tech probing nukes. Declassified MOD files, 2001, 750 pages, revealed internal skepticism but admissions of genuine bafflement, with memos debating cover-ups to prevent panic. While Project Condign, 1996 to 2000, analyzed plasma phenomena, possibly explaining lights but not traces. Contradictions emerged. Ed Cabansag denied seeing a craft, claiming only lights, while Halt's 2010 affidavit asserted extraterrestrial origin and joint US-UK cover-up, contradicting his original neutral memo. Critics like Colin Brindley noted timeline errors, events dated 27 to 28 versus 26 to 28. Yet core consistencies persist. 80-plus witnesses, physical marks, radiation data, and Halt's tape, analyzed by NASA engineers for authenticity. The site's legacy endures. A 1991 plaque marks the spot. Annual December vigils draw hundreds, and 2023 drone surveys detected magnetic anomalies at indentations. Rendlesham's implications challenge paradigms.
If military personnel at a nuke base encountered unknown craft, it suggests global intelligence monitoring, demanding transparency. Burroughs's VA win sets precedent for UAP injury claims, while Peniston's code, if genuine, hints at communication from advanced intelligences guiding human evolution. As declassifications continue, 2024 Pentagon report referencing Rendlesham, the case bridges skepticism and belief, urging rigorous study over dismissal. What do you conclude from the evidence? ET visitation, secret tech, or psy-op? The forest's silence holds answers, but witness courage ensures the questions persist, shaping UFO inquiry for generations.